The topic of this workshop is social media NNA, and we have Hannah and Kim who are going to be our speakers, and we are going to start with Hannah.
Hey guys, I'm an addict named Hannah. Oh,
hey Hannah. Hey Hannah.
I'm an addict named Hannah.
Hey Hannah.
I want you guys to know first, if you're looking for a really emotional, inspiring talk on Narcotics Anonymous, you are in the wrong room. We have 2 more workshops going on next door. So this is going to be really informational, and I'm going to try and make it a little entertaining. So there's 3 things I really want to focus on, and one is personal anonymity in social media, the other is public relations in social media, and the last is etiquette in social media, because we're assholes and we need to talk about it. Or at least I am. So personal anonymity is first, and I'm going to break it down between a couple of different social media accounts, because each social media venue is a little different, and I'm going to start with the most popular one, which is Facebook. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have a Facebook account, and there are some things I do that are intentional so that I can be as open about who I am and what I want to be on my social media account as I want, because I believe my social media is an extension of who I am. And so I tell my friends on Facebook that I'm at a Narcotics Anonymous convention. I tell people that I am in Narcotics Anonymous. I'm specific, and it is kind of public, but the reality is that my settings on Facebook are set so that unless a friend requests you or you have become my friend, you cannot see my information, which means that it is not a public forum. It is not a media place where someone could look me up that doesn't know me and find out about what I do. Only people that I have allowed into my circle, and granted, I do have 1,500 friends on Facebook, but they are all people that I've specifically allowed on. I know, I'm crazy. I've lived in 7 states and 2 countries, and been a part of like 4 different educational institutions, and so I have a lot of friends on Facebook, but they're all people that I know, or at least kind of know. We'll go with kind of know, that I have allowed into my circle. And so there's no member of the media that's on there. Well, there is, but he's a Narcotics Anonymous too, so I don't count him. I don't have police like looking at my thing. And if the FBI tried to look at my Facebook, they could not see it. I got that shit locked down, and there's a reason for that, because personal anonymity is one thing, but being in a media spotlight is totally another. And that's what part of our traditions are about. So if you're going to be all about some Narcotics Anonymous on your Facebook, I encourage it. Personal anonymity is a choice. And personally, I like telling people who I am and what I do. But I do it in a way that can't be misconstrued. Nobody on there that doesn't know me can find me and find out what I'm saying. And so if you're going to be open about it, make sure you're intentional about your privacy settings. They change on a consistent basis. I check them every 6 months and make sure that shit is the same. Because Facebook will change it up on you. And they do that for a reason, because they need to make money. That's what Facebook is about. And don't be like, this is mine. It's not yours. It's Facebook's account. And they will change the settings because it means that advertisers and things like that can get to you. And so I would suggest checking it every 6 months and making sure your settings are still the same. They do change if you don't follow them. And because of that, I'm able to say whatever I want. I put my blogs on there. I put my status updates in there. I bitch about my home group on there. I can put anything I want on there because I have my privacy settings set in a certain way. Now, that is not the case with Twitter. Twitter does not have privacy settings. You are either open to the public or you're not. And that's it. That's the only 2 settings you get. And I want to be open to the public because I want to be popular. I want people to be able to find me. Now, if you're not public, people can't find you. You can only find people. And because of how I use Twitter and what I use Twitter for, I want people to be able to find me. And because of that, the only thing I do put on that I'm in recovery, I put that I'm in a recovery process. I will talk about steps. I do not talk about Narcotics Anonymous on Twitter. And that is because anyone can find me, including media, police, outside sources. People can quote me. They can retweet me to the public. So even if I have my settings on lockdown and people couldn't find me, they could retweet me to the public. And because of that, it's really important for me not to disclose my anonymity on Twitter. So those are two very separate things, right? How many people in here actually have and use a Google Plus account? Okay, so like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Okay. So I have a Google Plus account for a while. I was helping doing an online meeting on Google Plus. Google Plus is really hard. Okay. Break dance moment. Google Plus can be really difficult because people can find you. You can't change that setting. People can always find you on Google Plus, as far as I know. I haven't found a way to change it yet. They can't see all of your posts. You can put posts to certain groups of people and that sort of thing, but it can get hairy. If you got like 20 different groups going and different people are in different groups and you can't remember which group is in which person is when. Anyway, I would be careful with Google Plus as far as being open. So those are like the 3 social media accounts that I hang out in. The other one is Instagram. I'm not a huge Instagrammer, but if you are, there are privacy settings. I guess my main thing is that with social media, when it comes to NA, know what your options are and make sure you're intentional about them. It's a spiritual practice for me. In Narcotics Anonymous, I make a spiritual decision to understand what I'm getting into when I sign on to a social media account, and I make sure I know what other people can see so that I can practice my anonymity today. If you don't know what your options are, you cannot practice anonymity because you won't know how to. And that is a problem. So make sure when you sign up to a new account, you know what you're doing and you know what your options are. Those are like my 2 big things. And I know there's some literature out there about social media and NA. I've read it. I don't necessarily agree with all of it. And I'm all right with that today. So I don't take suggestions as gospel, and that is what I believe some of our literature out on social media is right now. It's a changing culture. It's a changing platform. Options change, and it's okay to make up your own minds about this, but just be aware that you're not doing it in a compulsive or impulsive action, that it's based in clear thought, prayer, and by talking to other people about it before you make a decision. If you do that, you're going to be fine. If you don't do that, you're probably going to end up pissing some people off. One of the other things I want to talk about is public relations and social media. Up until Facebook and all these things really started taking off, public relations was really kept into the world of public service announcements through newspapers, radios, and maybe some public news stations, and that was it. But today, in the world of social media, you can spend $15 on one Facebook ad and reach over 4,000 people within a specific age range who have mentioned the word marijuana in a status update in the last 6 months. So today, for the first time in man's entire history, we have an opportunity to target people who really need us in a way that is amazing. And people really get their panties in a wad about the idea that we're taking out Facebook ads. Now, I want you to know that public service announcements are advertising. It is an advertisement. The difference between being promotional and being attractive is our intention. And so intent is really the difference in marketing. So if your intent is to get people to be convinced that this is a miraculous program that can save you and make you not an addict anymore, then that is promotional. If you are just letting people know that we exist and that we are present, that is attraction. And it doesn't matter if you pay for that spot or not. The difference is that they're both ads. People are like, well, we shouldn't call it an advertisement. Well, bullshit. Let's live in reality today. And the reality is it's an advertisement. And if we're going to be in the public eye, we have to speak like the public. And this is a Facebook ad that can be taken out. And there are some areas that have started doing this. They take out a $15 Facebook ad. And what that does is it can be open for anywhere from 2 to 4 days. And with Facebook marketing and advertising, you can pinpoint anyone that's mentioned legalized marijuana, drugs, recovery, that's mentioned Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, that has mentioned the subject of rehab. I mean, if they visited a Facebook page, that has any of those words in it, or they have made a status update that has any of those words on it, it will pop up in their newsfeed. And we can target it for certain times, which means we run it specifically between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. because I don't know about you, but that's when I was on, well, back then it was MySpace, but that's when I was on it, when I was getting high. And so it runs for certain age groups, for certain times, with certain words associated with it. And it's the same presentation as a public service announcement in a print ad. And it can direct people to a website with one click. It can direct them to a meeting list with one click. It can give them a phone number right there in front of them that's huge. And it gives us an opportunity to be present in our community's life. We can target a 1 mile radius around a meeting. Like, it's incredible what we can do as a public relations committee, either on an area or a regional or even a world level, if we really apply it. And so when you hear this stuff and people are freaking out about, oh, we're taking out ads and I want you guys to be champions for this. Like, this is an opportunity for Narcotics Anonymous to be present in the public sphere in a way that we've never done it before, because it is so effing cheap. It is $15 to reach about 4,000 people. And you can even, if you're in public relations, you can put that ad on and you can look at all your hits on your website and see how effective that particular ad was by how many clicks you've gotten on your website. You'll know, because as soon as it goes up, the hotline starts ringing. It's like when a commercial goes on the air and all the news stations know when it's going to go on the air and their phones start ringing with the 1-800 numbers and stuff. It's the same thing. That number hits on people's timelines, and our hotlines they go off the chain. And this is an advertisement. Let's not joke around about it. It is an ad. But it is a public service announcement ad, and it is about attracting people and letting people know that we're present. One of the things that people are concerned about is the fact that it has to be associated either with a group or a certain web page. And these groups are often public. People don't want to click on a page that's a secret group that they can't get into. And so there is some issue with anonymity as far as when you associate an ad with a group or a page. And so what some people have been doing is creating a page for an area that doesn't necessarily have a lot of likes. In fact, no likes, because nobody wants to put their anonymity out there and say, I like the North Atlanta area, or Midtown area, or the whatever area of Narcotics Anonymous. So what they do is create a dummy page, and the link that goes up is to their website and not to their Facebook page. And so there's still a link to an anonymous source, which is a website, instead of a Facebook page. And if you guys don't know the difference between a Facebook page and a group, we can talk about that, but that's way specific, and we're not going to get into that right now. What I do want to get into, though, are Facebook groups. How many of you are part of a secret NA group that's affiliated with either an area or people in Narcotics Anonymous somewhere around the world? I am too, and those bitches are crazy. And I'm seeing like a lot of head nodding. Here's the thing with anonymity and Facebook groups, y'all. If you don't have the balls to say it to someone's face, you should not be saying it on Facebook. That's right. And that's my rule of thumb. Now, I'm pretty ballsy, so I'll say a lot of stuff to people's face, and I'll put it on Facebook, and I don't mind. But there are some things that I won't. I won't call people stupid to their face. I won't call people names to their face. Well, that's not always true. Most of the time, I won't call people names. Honesty. I won't call people names to their face. And that means I can't call you names on Facebook. It means I can't say you're stupid on Facebook. If I would go to area service and say, well, that idea is stupid, I wouldn't say that. And so I can't say that on Facebook. It's not spiritual, and it's not acceptable behavior. Not only is it not spiritual and not acceptable behavior, it's not spiritual or acceptable for me not to say something to someone who's doing it. Which means if someone said someone's idea was stupid and I told them that was unacceptable behavior, that means I should do it on Facebook too. If I can't hold people accountable like I would in the real world, I have no business being there. And it's kind of like I talk to my sponsees. If you're not mature enough to have a conversation about condoms, you're not mature enough to have a conversation about, you're not mature enough to have sex. That's the same thing with Facebook. If you're not mature enough to have a conversation about etiquette and what's expected of the people on that Facebook group, you are not mature enough to be in that group. And if people don't like that, that's why we have settings where we can kick people off. You know, let's get one thing straight. When you are on Facebook group, it is not Narcotics Anonymous. It is a branch, perhaps, of Narcotics Anonymous. It is a place where we can talk about Narcotics Anonymous. It is a place where we can have great debates and good conversation about Narcotics Anonymous. It is not Narcotics Anonymous. And that's something the world has made very clear. And they made that clear because online groups cannot join meeting lists or be on the world page. And they do that on purpose. It was annoying because we had a group going, we had 15 members, it was on Google+, we met every week, and they would not let us be on any kind of meeting list at the world. We had trouble finding an area we could join because we were all over different parts of the country. But Narcotics Anonymous World has made it clear that that is not Narcotics Anonymous group. And they've done that for a reason. And now, after some experience, I see why. You know, like, you can't hold people really accountable if they live in California or England and you don't see them on a consistent. People lie. I'm not sure if you know that. People lie when you're in a meeting. You think, you know, what are they going to do when they're around the world and all you can see is them on a screen once a week? You know? So, those groups that we're in with those crazy people who post selfies of themselves every other day and are saying, look at me and my cleavage and look at me and my muscles, and yeah, she's not, you know, like this is not Narcotics Anonymous. And it's cool if that's the way they want to live their life. It's cool if that's what they want to post, if that's who they are. All right, let's support that. But what we can't support is people calling each other names. I mean, our worst parts of ourselves come out in social media, y'all. It is gross. And yeah, I mean, there is a page that my husband actually started years ago. It's called Members. And I know a few of you are part of that page, and he's since left because he said some things and he got some retribution and he don't like it. And that page consistently has these amazing debates and conversations. But it also has a lot of snarky people who are assholes. And the thing is I know those people in real life. And they're not like that. You know, and that's not, it's not just there. It's other pages too. You know, and if we are not the same people online that we are in person, we have no business being there. And holding people accountable, validating people, like people put all kinds of shit up there. People want to debate. People want to talk about meetings, vaping in meetings. People put all kinds of shit on there. And when we choose to invalidate it, when we say, oh, you're just being over-analytical. People tell me that shit all the time. You know, you need to settle down. You're just being over-analytical. Well, fuck you. This is how my higher power made me. And I want to talk about this stuff. And it's important to me. And I'm lucky enough to have the kind of personality that can claim that. But there are plenty of people who don't. And by invalidating those thoughts, we are putting newcomers in a place where we tell them that being creative and thinking through this process is unacceptable. And that's not okay. You know, we got here today because our predecessors were creative and they debated and they talked about stuff and they created literature and they hated each other for a while and they still have resentments against each other about it for 40 years and they're talking about it and they were creative. And if we're not fostering that creative process in this new forum that we have, we are stifling the newcomer. We are stifling the people, the younger generation, the millennials, who want to be a part of this process and a part of the conversation because we're telling them what they think is important isn't valid. So the next time you're on one of those pages and someone brings up the subject like, is it really breaking anonymity to take a selfie at a meeting? And so, right? Which seems like ludicrous to me. But to some people, like, this is a real important question. Like, this is a part of who they are. If we're not willing to have a real conversation with this person about what this means and what this could be, then we're telling them that that's a stupid question. You know, like that. That's not okay, and it's not acceptable. And I wouldn't tell a newcomer that in real life, and why would I do that on a social media account? So the three of the things I talked about for the people that came in, one is personal anonymity, and it doesn't matter how you do it or what you want to do, just be intentional about it. Know your options in social media. Know what your privacy settings can be on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, or whatever it is that you use. Make sure that you know what you're getting into. Because there's nothing like a PO stalking your Facebook and seeing you putting crazy shit up. And they do that shit today. Let's not joke around about it. If you don't have that shit on lockdown, they can see what you post. And that is not fun for anyone if you post something crazy and they come after you. All right? So make sure you know what your settings are. If you're in public relations, advertising is not a bad word. It is the difference between being attractive and being promotional. That is the difference in advertising. And so if we're advertising ourselves as Narcotics Anonymous, we just have to make sure we know what our intent is. We cannot promise miracles. We cannot even promise a solution, because the promise of the solution is not up to Narcotics Anonymous. It is up to the individual. And so we can't say, for example, one group is going to put up an ad that says, have a problem, we can help. We might not actually be able to. And for me, that is actually a promotion. So I suggest that if you really think about the words you use, we can help. We might be able to help. We have a place where we can show you help. You know, whatever it is we decide to say, make sure it's intentional and well thought out. There are people who get like 8 years worth of a degree for this stuff, and we're trying to do it, some of us, without a high school education. So as long as we're intentional and we know what we're getting ourselves into, when it comes to advertising in Facebook, we have an opportunity to be present for a community that we've never seen before. And then the last thing is, don't be assholes. You know, like, just don't be a jerk. And like, really go through that process. Would I say this out loud? Like, would I say this at an area service meeting? Would I say this at my group conscience? And if the answer is even, I'm not sure, don't say it. Don't say it. Foster creativity. Foster conversation. Have the opportunity to have a conversation that you think might be stupid, where you could actually learn something, for Christ's sake. I don't know about you, but I've started conversations before thinking I was going to teach this newcomer something. And that didn't work out. You know, realizing that, oh, maybe I did. I mean, maybe a selfie isn't in a meeting isn't breaking anonymity as long as no one else is in it. It's just you. I mean, like, you really have to think through some of these conversations. And our newcomers and our newer generation can really help us open those up, man. And the last thing I want to warn people about is sarcasm. All right. Oh, honey, I love some sarcasm. But one thing that does not come across in a Facebook message or a tweet is emotional tone. And so what I might say in sarcasm, others might take in truth. Happens all the time. I cannot read someone, I don't care how well I know you. My husband has sent me text messages in sarcastic jest that have pissed me the hell off because I could not understand his tone, and I know that man better than anybody. So if I can know someone that well and still not understand tone, then think about people you've never met before on a Facebook group trying to figure out whether you're really pissy or just being sarcastic. People don't care enough to try and figure that shit out, and they'll just get mad. So the only way that we can foster community in these groups is by removing anything that might have tone, being completely open and honest as possible without having any kind of tone in it. There is no place for sarcasm in Facebook groups. And I hate that because I'm a sarcastic asshole. But it is not possible to be sarcastic on those groups and foster spiritual unity. It is impossible. If you find a way, please let me know. But as of yet, and I am on social media, I mean, it's what I do for my job. So I am on Facebook, playing around on Facebook, getting paid for it, about 7 hours a day. And I've still not found a way to be sarcastic and make it effective, whether it's in real marketing or whether it's in Narcotics Anonymous. So be careful with your words, man. Be careful with your intent. Like, these are places that can be incredible if we allow them to. But they have also become really sick places for us. They can be horrible. I mean, they have pushed people with years clean out of wanting to go to specific meetings because of what people have said. And that is just not cool, as far as I'm concerned. So watch what you say. Be a part of the solution. And if you don't know what that solution is, ask in one of those Facebook groups and see what happens. I love asking about stuff. People get so mad at me, so I'm like, what do we think about the 12 traditions? Or like, what do we think about advertising? What do we think about taking credit cards for 7th tradition? Ask that question on the social media account. You get all kinds of crazy shit.
Really?
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, there's an opportunity to get really cool conversations going in these forums with people all over the country. And when those conversations happen, it can be incredible. What do we think about taking out the masculine name for God in the 12 steps? What? Ask that in a big old 12,000 person Narcotics Anonymous group. It is a cool conversation to have with people with all amounts of clean time and all over the world. But when we say we need to worry about something else, or we say you're just being over analytical, or you're just being this, you're telling me what my intent is and telling me that my thought and my conversation isn't worthy of your time. And last time I checked, we were all created equal in this program. And all of our thoughts and all of our ideas are necessary to create a bigger and better program. And if we're not willing to have those conversations with people, that's all right. Not all of us are made for it, but that doesn't mean you have to shut it down. So be a part of the creativity and the conversation, but do so with intentional motivation. Know what your privacy settings are, people. I know that those big old contracts you sign up, like you scroll through so you can just hit accept at the bottom, are really long. But read that shit. Those are the things that tell you what your anonymity can and cannot mean. And we have to be intentional about that in Narcotics Anonymous. Otherwise, we're liable to tell the world who we are, and then we look like, and we're an asshole, and then the world thinks Narcotics Anonymous is an asshole. And that's not cool. That's why I don't have bumper stickers on the back of my car that say NA, because I drive like an asshole. And if I can't drive around like an asshole with an NA bumper sticker on, then I can't do that on my Facebook either. You know, and so it's important that we're intentional about that stuff. So thanks, guys, for letting me share.
And next up we have Kim.
I'm Kim and I'm an addict.
Hey, Kim.
So, thank you, Hannah. I love hearing from the younger generation on any technical things. I'm of the older generation. When they asked me if I was willing to do this workshop, I thought, oh, you gave me one I have to study on. I have had the pleasure of being a public relations representative for my area, and I really appreciated the whole note on that you had. And so, I was thinking, I'm very active in Facebook. I do not have a Twitter account. So when I think about this in my experience, most of my experience in recovery period has been by making mistakes. I make mistakes and I learn from them and I change. So, a lot of the things that you said that we can do, I have done. I have acted the fool. I have been sarcastic. I have been abusive, and none of that felt good. A lot of that I had to make amends for, and I've learned how to be more spiritual in my process with it. Now I still will type out a comment, and then I take a breath. I reread the comment, and like you said, I think, is this really what I want to put out there? And more times than not, I retract the comment. I do not get it out there. I do not hit send. The whole idea of what I personally do, though, and what Narcotics Anonymous suggest are important to me. This is a direct quote from a piece of our literature on this subject. NA does not endorse the use of social media through its IP. Social media and our guiding principles is what it's called. Only addresses the issues that arise as its members do. So in our traditions, we don't endorse that you use social media. But it knows, they know that we're going to. So, it gives us some guidelines and some things to think about. And I think they're very important things. Being in public relations before, I really got to know about the 11th tradition. Our 11th tradition is our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. When they created that tradition in our sister program, they didn't even have worldwide television. So they added television to that at some point. Well, now we've got the World Wide Web, and that's been added to it too. Like Hannah was eloquent with, it's, when we're in the public, we have a responsibility. And I, too, don't care if you know that I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I share that fairly openly. And I have learned over the years to respect my other addicts and that I can't, engage in letting everybody know that you are. But our 11th tradition states that I don't need to let you know that I am either when I'm in the public forum. And that's important. I am not as technically capable as you are. And I don't want to take the energy and time to read through that jargon. So I need to be careful. I don't need to go out there saying, I don't need to have the words Narcotics Anonymous on anything that I post publicly. I don't know what your settings are, and you're my friend. I don't know what you're going to tag me in, and it's going to be on something else. There's too many variables there. So, I do have some private groups. My sponsorship family has a secret group. We were private at first, and we learned being private, they could still ask to come in. So we kept getting these men, who knows, what country, whatever, that were posting as women trying to get into our group. They did have to ask, and I did have to thwart a couple of those. But so at that point, we made it secret. So you can't even find our group. We have to invite you totally. You can't even find it searching it. But I tell you from that group, it was initially put on there for information, so we could get information around each other. We're doing this. We're getting together here. We're having a sponsorship retreat, whatever. But what I've seen from that group is what I see in meetings, to a bigger degree, a more personal degree even sometimes, that they're able to share things in a forum where they're, they're at home crying tears, and they're able to express something, and these other women lift them up. It's a beautiful thing I've seen. So the 11th tradition is really meant to keep us focused on our primary purpose, and carrying the message to the addict who still suffers. And if I'm out there saying, look at all these celebrities that are out there touting that, wearing jewelry and touting their recovery, well, that's all fine and good until they're acting the fool. Then that's not looking so good on us. And that doesn't just stop with celebrities. That's each and every one of us have a part in that. Public visibility. Now, The 11th tradition reminds us that when it comes to membership in the credibility of our program can be greatly affected by the action of its members. You know, like you were saying, what's on your car? You know, what's on your T-shirt? You know, how are you acting when you're wearing these things? Well, that's true for social media too, maybe even more so. So our guidelines on that from the world, they have some questions, and I have some questions that I ask myself. What level is my visibility? You know, am I in the public eye, or is this a private forum? As far as you know, even I'll tell you a mistake I made. Somebody I know in the rooms had posted something a few years back, and you know, it's just, you know, blurb of what was going on in their day, their moment, and you know, I posted back, well, that sounds like a second step issue there. Well, they removed that, and they messaged me behind the scenes, and I learned from that. I learned not to do that again. Respecting others' anonymity. Don't post pictures or post comments that might bust their anonymity. There's a lot of picture taking going on this weekend, and there's and you know, like I said, I come from old school. I've been here a long time. When I came in, nobody was here to tell us don't do this or don't do that. We were doing all of it. We were doing it all wrong. And but what I've learned is, like, you know, I like last year at this convention, I saw people up there with their iPads, you know, in the Saturday night speaker meeting. Oh, just videotaping everybody, you know. Well, that's not cool. Unless you're just going to keep it for your private self, I guess that's okay. If you're not going to show it to anyone ever again, but if once you post it on the World Wide Web, it's there forever. It's not cool. It's you know, and what, you know, what the guidelines, they were like, you know, well, what should I do in that? Well, I want to take your picture. Can I? Do you mind? Do you mind if I post it? Those are the things that you should do, just to think of, just to be courteous, to respect someone else's anonymity. What's in the background? Is there a big NA convention banner? Don't put that on the internet. You know, it seems silly for me now to say it, but at one point it was, and I didn't think about it at all. And that's what these are for. These are for information and letting us know, you know, what is the right thing to do. Don't tag people. I don't. You have to ask me to tag you. And don't ask me to tag someone else. That irritates me. So really, the credibility of NA's message can be greatly affected by the NA's messengers. In the public eye, including press, radio, and films, and all other media, we need to always maintain personal anonymity. Personal anonymity. I don't mind if you know that I'm an addict, but when I'm in a public forum, I need to keep it kind of quiet. That's what that tells me. I don't know. I don't act good on all occasions. I act out sometimes, even with the clean time and recovery I have. I don't know when that might happen, and I need to keep my anonymity in case it does. For the respect of the addict who's not here yet, who might look at that comment that we made on that page and say, that's not attractive. I don't want to go somewhere where they're going to be talking about my shit. Some of that's a little bit of my opinion. Most of it's not. Most of it's just what I've read and researched in the last week. I love that we can use the internet. I mean, you know, when I came here, we didn't have cell phones. It was hard to get in touch with each other. I really am never alone anymore. As long as I have that phone, I am never alone. I love that I'm a part of this fellowship. I love the way it's grown and matured since I've been here. I want to see it continue to grow and mature. We're looking for you guys, you newer comers, to keep it on. And what we want to do, because I think this is important for this kind of group, is to open it up for questions and answers. And not just like we're going to answer, but if you've got some experience, because that's the best way we work here, is with our experience, strength, and hope. So, has anybody got a question? You'll have to talk up.
Actually, we have some chairs up here if you'd like to come stand closer to the microphone.
Ready for that.
Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I'm still dealing with that ego stuff, man. I ain't gonna tell no damn lie. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm in your picture. I don't care. I try to make sure I ain't standing in front of no damn bar. I saw that one time. Some folk was at a convention. I know they were just in the restaurant, and you're not thinking about it. And they took a group picture, and they were standing right in front of the damn bar. I just laughed my ass off. I said, on with your ass up. You know, yeah. Well, being consciously aware. My question is, right, that I do it. So it's a late question, but I'm amenable to change. NA symbols. I get these moments where I'm real deep and profound, right? And I'll post something on the internet, and then I'll put a picture of an NA symbol up on it, you know. Yeah, look at me. And I'm wondering about that, what the fellowship thinks about just posting an image of any NA symbol.
So the first thing I would suggest is making sure that if you are posting an NA symbol, that you're following the law. So our NA symbols are copyrighted. I don't know if you guys know that. And there are some that are copyrighted and some that are not. And I would suggest that if you're posting it in a public space, even if you have relatively private settings, that you post one that has a little copyright symbol. It'll have either an R or a C with a circle around it real small in the bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.
And then that way you know that you're attributing it to a copyrighted symbol.
Okay.
It's completely legal. I mean, you can post anything you want, but it's really not, it's not cool to post stuff that's not copyrighted. Personally, I don't do it. So if you do post it, make sure you do that. And if you are posting something like an NA symbol, make sure your privacy settings are set in a way that the whole world can't see it.
Okay.
Because then you're in a public sphere, and it's like posting it in a comments page on a newspaper or like on CNN. Anybody can see it. So I would make sure your privacy settings are set right and that you use a copyrighted image.
One more question.
Oh wait, I've got an interjection on that one.
Yeah.
Because I just learned about it, new to me. It talks about that in the IP, about the copyright, and I know on Facebook there's at least one group. I don't know if it's secret or private, but it's a group that says specifically Narcotics Anonymous in it. And that is, it specifically says in the IP that that's not okay.
Right.
It's okay if your area, if a service group gets together and says, okay, we're going to create this.
Right.
But if you or I do it, it is not okay. So I'm not sure if that includes the symbol or not.
Yeah.
but I would suspect it
Right.
does.
I
That
agree.
that me as a person cannot use the
Right.
symbol or the name,
Right.
but one of our groups can.
Thank you.
Tabernacle, they call me Stacy.
Hey, Stacy.
As opposed to using the copyrighted symbols versus the non-copyrighted symbols, it's just the same as saying whether you're an official in Narcotics Anonymous group or you're a Narcotics Anonymous group unofficial. It's like terminology. Terminology all over social media will get you in trouble, as you stated, and as you stated. The terminology in which, or the copyright in which are in question, because I fly a phoenix over my Facebook page on a regular basis, and I have two symbols. One is copyrighted, the other one is not. They're in two different locations, though. In social media, secret groups, I'm a member of members as well. And about 35 other NA groups, because I've got the history pages and this and this and this and this. But I keep, my privacy settings are as to, I know when to turn the world on and when to keep that motherfucker off. And that's, social media to me is, I also have LinkedIn accounts. I've reopened my MySpace, okay? So it's there. But it's through my Facebook. Just didn't know how to get through it. But I have all these social media accounts because all I do is social media. I'm on social media. I've been to Skype meetings all the way in the UK. Now in the UK, it's on the world. That meeting is on the world page. Some meetings you can get on there, but they have to come in and it has to be in effect for 30 days. You have to be doing it all the right way. And there's so much hypocrisy to getting world to agree with Narcotics Anonymous because they're not the same.
And that's a great issue, but let's open it up for another question.
Kim?
I'm real grateful for this workshop because I have privacy settings to let people know my business, period. I'm proud to be in this fellowship, but I don't advertise it. My settings are set, but I don't know if all my friends' settings are set. I have children I represent. I've been home a long time with my kids, getting ready to get out in the work world, and not everybody out there is open-minded.
Yeah.
So, my fear is I may have a hard time getting a job because they think I'm an active addict, even though I'm in the program. And I don't really care. I don't think it's their business to know. My business. There's a lot that my kids don't know. I won't lie to them, but I'm
They can't hear you.
Kim, turn. You're louder than that.
It's just, I don't know my friends' settings, and I'm proud to be in this fellowship, but I don't advertise I'm an addict. Not everybody's open-minded.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for a job, I'm going to get hired. And for me, not for my past. So, I'm really grateful that you're having this meeting because it opens my eyes to my settings. But what do you do in the case of your friends and their settings? Like, how do you control all people? I just think
control.
it's impossible to control this.
Control is a funny word that we try
okay.
to.
Yeah.
We
Well, I
try to
have 2 years,
that.
too, so that means, I still like to control everything.
Right. So one of the things I think that Kim, touched on is respecting the anonymity of others. I mean, you do have the ability to delete stuff almost instantaneously. So if someone posts something on your Facebook that you don't want, you can delete it. But if you're really, really concerned about your friends being idiots about anonymity, you can set your Facebook settings so that nobody can post anything on anything that you own on Facebook. That's right. That is a setting. Now, I don't particularly like it because that means people can't really interact with you, which sucks. But if you're trying to make a decision between really locking down your anonymity and posting, like that is an option you have. So you can always delete, on Facebook, it doesn't stay in the world after you delete it. Well, it might in their servers, but it certainly doesn't in the public view. And you can put your Facebook settings so that nobody can post anything in anything that you're tagged in. You can set it so that nobody can tag you. You can set it so that nobody can put anything on your wall. My favorite is when someone like does a Facebook meme that's like a Narcotics Anonymous symbol and a step and then tags everybody and their mother in it. Don't tag me in shit I'm not actually in, first of all. But you can take that tag off. You can remove tags of yourself. So you have options in doing that. And then if you're on Facebook relatively consistently, it can be done, you know, the second you get the notification, you can remove it. So usually within a few seconds if you're active.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a two-part, Karen, I'm an addict.
Hey, Karen.
I have a two-part question. The first one is about people putting me in a group versus asking me if I want to join a group, because I'm like, all of a sudden I'll get a notification, you're now a member of XYZ, and at first I was like, oh, that's so cool, they thought of me, I'm so honored. Well, after like 10 or 15, it's no longer an honor, it's just freaking annoying because I can't be part of all of that. So I wanted to know, A, what your viewpoint is, or your experience, strength, and hope in asking, you know, that etiquette. I don't add people. I say, would you like to become a member? And because it's secret, and if you might like it, and then ask. But I would like to know your take on it. And the other one is, I'm on a group called Decades Clean, and they have administrators on there, and they say this is not an NA meeting. And so when people say things like clean and sober, and everybody jumps, they remind them. But they also have the ability to remove people. So I was kind of curious on your take on that. Surveillance versus being able to share freely what you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So,
I don't really care.
So remind me your first question again.
About being asked to join a
Okay,
group.
so again, you can set your privacy settings so that that can't happen. Now that usually means you're pretty much on lockdown. So a lot of people don't want to give up the freedom of being able to interact with people versus not being put into groups. But again, as soon as you're put in a group, you can remove yourself from a group. So it takes all of about 2 seconds to click remove myself from this group, and it's done, which is a little annoying. I don't particularly like that setting that Facebook has done either, but it's Facebook's company and they can do what they want. So if you're going to be on Facebook and you don't want your privacy settings to be on lockdown, you're just going to have to get used to removing yourself from groups, which I do relatively consistently. So as soon as you get that notification, you can just click remove. And second of all, I don't see administrators as anything more than chair people. So if you're at a meeting and a chairperson cuts someone off who's on a drug log, that is not surveillance. That is keeping that atmosphere of recovery. And it's the same thing as an administrator in one of those secret groups that says, we say clean here, not sober, or whatever it is they decide their rules are. That is not surveillance so much as it is trying to maintain. I told you I'm not the emotional speaker. If you want that, you gotta go next door. That really is about maintaining an atmosphere of recovery as much as you can in one of those groups. And usually it's not just one administrator. Usually there's 2 or 3 that have decided in some sort of lackadaisical, half-assed kind of group conscience what is and is not acceptable for that group. And so for me, that's not surveillance. That's maintaining an atmosphere of recovery.
Thank you.
We got Michelle and then we'll get Jimmy. But I just want to enter another thought on that whole, I can erase it as soon as it's there. With screenshot, that's not an absolute. If I got my phone and I'm looking at something and you post it and I screenshot it, I've got it. I've got it there for as long as I want to keep it there.
Which could be used in a court of law.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm an addict.
Michelle.
This is more of a comment about something stupid I did right before we came in here, and I changed it. I was talking with Kim about coming in here, and I had posted some pictures, and I was with my husband, so it says with my husband, and but I had put Rick down, and I didn't even think about it. Right? It's just like I'm with Joe. It's no big deal. Well, where my husband works, it could be a really big deal. So I immediately changed it. I just put Augusta, Georgia. But that whole thing, it was like you're not even thinking about it, right? And about that tagging or whatever, because now all of my husband's friends and coworkers and all that stuff could see it, and it was like, oh, that was pretty inconsiderate. So I changed it. But that whole idea about the tagging and stuff is such a big deal because I don't care about like where I work, my coworkers and stuff, but he really does about his. So that's a big
welcome. And Facebook will automatically tag people now. Not even you tagging them. It will just register the face
It recognizes them.
and pop it on there. And I'll have to figure out how to get it off of there.
Yeah,
Jimmy?
definitely.
My name's Jimmy. I'm an addict.
Hey, Jimmy.
Kind of two comments. One on the security is social media and a computer never, ever, ever is secure as me. If you type something in this phone or on your computer, there's a record of it forever somewhere. And so I've known IT people that can get into your Facebook and email account in 5 minutes. I've seen them do it. If you do 12 characters, it might take them 2 days, but it can be done. So at any level of anything that I type in, I need to be very careful of what I say or how I say it. It is not as secure as being in a meeting. Even this one, we're being recorded.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful about that. People have sent text messages. Some of your private ones have been sent to me. Look what so-and-so said. If it's a secure place, I can copy the screen, as she mentioned, and send it to somebody else. But there's always a copy. I was doing something on my computer at work the other day and replicated this, and emails from 10 years ago popped up on my computer that I thought I had gotten rid of, and read a couple of them and wish I'd gotten rid of them and never written them in the first place. But I have to be very careful that it's never completely secure, and I need to understand that going into it. The other is about the anonymity of implicating other people. Is that if you see me during the day, I'll be wearing a suit. That's my job, and I'll be sitting at a table in a restaurant. Don't ask me what meeting I'm going to tonight, because I'm probably working, and I don't necessarily want these people knowing that I'm going to NA meetings. And that, as you mentioned, other people don't. Being an alcoholic is kind of socially acceptable. I think there's country clubs you can't get into unless you're an alcoholic. But a drug addict in a lot of people's minds is a different level.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have a friend that was fired from a job for looking up a meeting for someone else, and their IT saw it and just freaked out about it. And so I have to be careful that I don't care that if I'm sitting in a restaurant and I've got my NA stuff on, I'm implicating, or have talked about recovery, I'm implicating everyone at the table. And I have to be aware of that, but Facebook and others makes that problem much, much grander. And I have to be really careful that I'm breaking your anonymity by me being okay with mine. And so I really have to think about it. I'm very cognizant of anything that I post, just because I know if it's electronic, there is a copy of it somewhere. And it's never going to be as secure as a regular meeting or a private conversation.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah.
I'm Susan. I'm an addict. I don't know if this is helpful. I would actually love your feedback on this, if I'm accurate. But there's a feature in Facebook where you can, within your own people and stuff, you can create groups of buckets, right, of people within your own Facebook page. And then when you're posting something, you can actually decide if you want to allow some of those groups to see or not see. So on the one side, for example, you can put everybody that you know from NA into a bucket, and then if you want to post something that you just want NA people to see, like it's NA related, but you don't want the rest of the people in your group to see it, you can select only visible by this group of people that I've already created. Likewise, I did this a long time ago when I had a life filled with secrets. Well, a long time ago. Yeah. I had a group that I called Censored. Okay, that was like my parents and my brother, professional colleagues, and I put people in that bucket so that if I wanted to talk about drugs and music on my Facebook, I could visible by everybody except the censored group. And I could, so I'm not necessarily endorsing the church now, but you can either make something only visible to a group you created or visible to everybody except the group. Is that correct?
Yeah, you definitely can do that.
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it can get really messy really quick if you accidentally hit the wrong group. So I don't do that because I've done that a few times, and there's nothing like trying to block your mom from something, and then she's the only one who sees it, right? Whoops, daisies. So it can be done, and especially if you're really organized with your Facebook and your groups and things like that, that's something that can definitely be done. It's not something that I do because with 1,500 people, it's almost impossible. But if you have a smaller Facebook group of friends and you want to do that, I think it's a really good way to do it. But keep in mind, like when you were posting about drugs, your friends that were censored couldn't see it, but the police certainly could. And so, especially if you're not on lockdown, if you don't have your settings on lockdown. So just be careful. I mean, if just because you put Narcotics Anonymous on there and your censored list doesn't see it, doesn't mean that your job can't see it. Doesn't mean that they can't figure out how to. Especially the tech people, I think, like Jimmy was saying, like they can find it relatively easily if they know what they're doing. So yeah, that is something you can do. But just remember that if it's out in the open, it's out in the open, whether you want it to be or not.
Missy?
I'm Missy, I'm an addict. I had a lady in my home group a couple years ago. I wanted her in Facebook. She was so excited about it, but she refused because she's an early childhood educator. Mm-hmm. And at that time, a lot of people would get fired, which not necessarily about our fellowship, but it was a big deal. If you were an instructor,